here I am in my white corset bodice.
Yeah.
She has a center part and a blonde bob.
Yeah.
She's rich, smokes, and she's a bitch. Hello and welcome to Incomplete Geeks. It's a gay geek podcast where we talk about all sorts of geeky things. Many times our knowledge is fabulous, but there are times when our knowledge is
incomplete.
I am Nick, that is John, and quite frankly, both of us would just really love to be Emma Frost's gay brother.
Yeah.
So, in honor of that, for our 50th episode, we are here to talk about Emma Frost.
Yes.
The White Queen.
Yep.
The gay icon.
Gay icon.
That she is.
Long may she reign. Right?
Like, the more we talk about it, and the more champagne I drink, because we are drinking champagne, because this is an Emma Frost episode.
True.
The more aggressively loyal to Emma Frost I will get. I feel, even without mutant powers, she could, like, harangue an army of gays to her favor.
Yeah.
Quite
I mean,
easily.
the powers help, for sure.
I mean, for sure. But she wouldn't need to control us.
We stan Emma Frost? Is that fair
We
to say?
absolutely do stan Emma. Do we stan? Yeah, well, we stan. I got it confused with ship for a second, and I was like, wait,
Ship,
do we ship? No, we don't ship Emma Frost.
No.
We ship Emma Frost with anyone.
No, you ship a couple.
Yeah, because of relationship. Right. We stan.
So,
welcome. This is episode.
Welcome.
This is episode 50,
ta-da!
in which we will be doing many various drunk rants about the fantabulous White Queen.
Yeah, not angry rants.
No,
just raving raves.
Kind of like how we did with Buffy, where we got like aggressively positive.
We did, didn't we?
And it's like we're going to be doing quite a lot of that.
Yeah. And this is an episode that you've been wanting to do for a very long time as well. Which, understandably.
It's one of the... when we were, like, brainstorming ideas of, like, gay stuff or gay icons. Like, when you talk gay icons, as a comic book geek, you get... the only one who's gayer is Dazzler.
In the X-Men, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with the biggest following of gays is Emma Frost. So in honor of that...
Yeah.
Logistics-wise didn't work out, but we have a very special guest contributor today. We tried really hard for them to dial in live and do all that kind of stuff. It just did not work out. So, but we are very...
Yeah, for reasons.
It's just life.
It's life.
Just life and the podcast. It's just like a tough podcasting life. It's what we do.
Damn you, life.
The rough ramshot world of podcasting. We do, however, have some very special guest contributions from a massive Emma Frost fan and a massive queer.
Yep.
Hi, Nick and John, and hi to all you incomplete geeks out there.
Nice.
This is Brett from the Comic Book Queers Legacy podcast. Thank you for asking me to join the show and speak about my favorite subject, Emma Grace Frost. Let's start with why we love her. I think for me, it starts with her character archetype. There is nothing like a bitch with a kind heart. I don't know what it is about characters like Cheryl Blossom from Riverdale or Cordelia from Buffy or Santana from Glee, but there's just something about a woman with a kind, vulnerable heart that hides it behind an icy, cold, mean, but still really sarcastic and really funny exterior. And I think that comedy part, that funny part goes a long way too, and I'll talk about that later. But my experience reading her, it took me a while to really respond to her, and I think it took a while for her to be pretty fleshed out. I knew of the White Queen from the Dark Phoenix saga, obviously. She seemed like a one-note villain. That was the first story. Maybe not the first, but I did go back and read. While I was reading the Outback era as a child, I went back and read the Dark Phoenix saga and experienced Emma Frost for the first time. But she seemed pretty one note. I mean, I did admire her fashion sense, very steeped in BDSM, but there was really nothing else beyond that.
Okay, that was
Love it.
That was supposed to be 2 clips, but technical errors. But
Hi, Brett.
hi, Brett.
Thank you
There's
joining.
more. There's more to come. We're going to split up some little clips. We've asked Brett to contribute his feelings about the White Queen because he's a massive Emma Frost fan.
Mm-hmm.
He dresses up as her, even though it's not really him. On the cover of Comic Book Queers.
Like illustration.
Yeah, illustration-wise, Comic Book Queers Legacy podcast. He is designed as the White Queen himself. So we know she is massively popular amongst fellow queers.
Yes, for sure.
So his little intro, he said a very good point. It's like a bitch with a good heart.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to comment on that. Just that first clip.
Let's talk about a bitch with a good heart.
So thank you, Brett, from Comic Book Queers. We really appreciate it. Let's start with that because there's a lot of we'll come back to his clips, but in that what he's just said has you saw me have a lot of reactions to this. I'm going to try to remember it all. And just to be clear, when we start talking about Emma Frost in this episode, Nick is the expert. And Brett, of course, and I'm a bit less of an expert, so I'm here to learn as well. And if you're listening to this episode, you don't know a lot of Emma Frost, then this episode is for you because we are gonna talk about her. We're gonna bring you up to speed, just like me.
John is the incomplete geek in this instance. Brett and I are fairly complete geeks when it comes to Emma Frost, even though we may get stuff wrong. So let's go on this journey together.
So just to set the stage. So that's where we are. So, bitch with a kind heart.
Bitch with a kind heart.
I never thought about that because basically the relationship, the comparison he said to Cordelia was like, oh my god, yeah, he totally is. I don't know Riverdale. And I didn't really watch.
I remember Cheryl Blossom from the comic books. I never watched Riverdale because it's too young, and too whatever.
But Cordelia, obviously,
yeah.
And there is that sort of I don't want to say a stereotype, but is that kind of type, archetype, where that front, like Brett said, the front is just, it seems icy, it seems sarcastic, very quippy, and that all, like, that can be some of the really effective characters in any sort of geeky fiction are the ones where you have that front, but actually down inside, there's a softness, there's a compassion.
There's a softness, there's a vulnerability, which we will get into. Like Brett mentions a few key issues of hers that he's books one, and there's another one a couple I want to talk about. But kind of like putting up that front, and again, we're going to talk about why this episode is why Emma Frost is a gay icon, and I think that's a perfect example. But we will talk about that more. Questions in the back?
Yeah. Should we talk about who she is first?
Yes. So.
Okay. Before we get into the analysis.
So let's talk about Emma. So we're getting all over the place. I'm too excited. I'm sorry, guys.
Start over.
Emma Frost.
No, just kidding.
What is your experience with Emma Frost? If I am the complete geek, you're the incomplete geek.
I'm the incomplete geek.
What do you know about her?
I think it's a very smart choice to start with my experience because it's fairly limited. We'll come back to the Cordelia comparison because I got more to say on that. But basically, Emma Frost as a comic book character from the X-Men comics. I remember, because growing up, my first experience with the X-Men was with the X-Men cartoons. I don't remember her being in the cartoons. And you can correct me later if it's not, but I don't remember her being in there. My first experience with her was reading about her in the X-Men films from the early 2000s, because she comes up. I'm gonna get this wrong because I'm the incomplete geek, but she's no, I remember what it was. I didn't know much about her until X-Men Origins Wolverine, because she comes in as like her powers are sort of represented as like a childish kind of thing, but she's a mutant who has the power to transform her skin into diamond like substance, and also she has telepathic abilities which come close to rivaling Professor X.
I'll give you the full breakdown in a second, but
so
she wasn't a telepath in the Wolverine film. She's just
Not
with
the woman.
diamonds.
Yeah. So in the film, so the thing is, like, I noticed her and I read about it because I'm that kind of geek. Where I'm like, what's this? I'll read about it, and so I learned more about her, Emma Frost, and then I actually learned more about her story in video games because there were video games called X-Men Legends where she crops up as like as a sort of a villain where you have to fight her cuckoos. And then she eventually comes to your side because you need her help to get to the astral plane, whatever. So I learn about that kind of thing. Yeah, X-Men Legends.
Sounds fucking awesome.
If I'm being specific, I think it's X-Men Legends 2 where she pops up. But
Correct us in the comments.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong. But that's how I learned more about her, that she had this telepathic ability. And then let her simmer in the background until X-Men First Class.
Yep.
Where she's played by January Jones.
Yep.
And I never saw Mad Men, but I heard she was good in Mad Men. But I can tell, having known very little about the character and her gay icon status, that she was not given the right treatment in this film.
I mean,
I was bored with this performance.
That film was piss shit, garbage, wank. But
some people love the film generally. But
some people do. They're wrong. It's awful. Okay.
And then I learned about her connection to the Hellfire Club.
Oh yeah.
Very briefly.
Oh yeah.
And then I think
I'm gonna have to do like details. Oh my god.
And then I think that's it. I didn't know very much about her. I mean, I hear about from other friends talking about her. Oh, I need her bobblehead Funko Pop thing. Oh,
I have a Funko Pop.
There are two.
There's two?
Yeah, there's like a diamond form one as well. I got that for.
I don't want the diamond one.
Anyway, and then you mentioned when we watched the X-Men Pride of the Wolverines, whatever it was called.
Yes! Pride of the X-Men.
Whatever it was, yeah. She shows up briefly in that as a villain, and I was like, oh, she was probably a good villain before? And you said, yeah. So, based on that, all the media that I hear of...
Just the media versions of Emma Frost. It's probably what a lot of people...
And from what you and other friends have said.
And then me annoying you with why she's so fantabulous.
And I do love her. I do appreciate it the more I learn about her.
I'm not going to do like a full character profile. This is Cerebro.
No.
But
Cerebro podcast you're talking about. Call us, Connor.
Emma Frost is
a mutant. I got that right. Yeah.
She's definitely a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
She is a telepathic mutant. She was introduced in the Dark Phoenix saga,
which I didn't know.
So her and Kitty Pryde were introduced in the same issue. Mm-hmm. As antagonists to each other. So there's a great line, if you love Kitty Pryde, which we do. Is she a gay icon? Is Kitty Pryde a gay icon? Or just an icon? Just an icon, I think.
No.
I think she's just an icon.
Maybe. I don't know enough about her to say what am I.
So, yeah. Recently
question from the back.
Let me finish my sentence first.
Okay, go. It's the champagne talking.
She said that you can't, recently, and she's like, you can't tell my origin story without telling yours. It's like, you are my origin story because Emma Frost is Kitty Pryde's villain. Because
wait, they say that in character?
Yes, because she was introduced as Kitty Pryde's villain, and they have some like back and forths in the New Mutant stuff as well. Question at the back?
Yes. Very quick question. Can Kitty Pryde phase through her diamond form?
Yes. The only substance she has trouble with is adamantium, just for... She phases through it, but it like causes a shock or something like that.
Right.
Anyway.
Fair enough.
Again, I'm not going to go into full detail because I'll get something wrong. Introduced in the 70s as just plain old bad guy in bondage form, as part of the Hellfire Club, which is introduced in the Dark Phoenix saga.
Okay.
She helps Mastermind telepathically manipulate Jean Grey.
Right.
She tries to recruit Kitty Pryde when she's introduced, which all happens in the Dark Phoenix saga, all that kind of stuff. But she's like a straight up like villain. Mm-hmm. Post Dark Phoenix stuff, she's in a couple of ones where she's like cognac swigging, cigarette on a stick, Cruella de Vil villain.
The very 1920s.
It's like Chris Claremont said that she one of his big things that he doesn't like about stuff that is done with his characters is like she's a villain and they've made her a hero, and he's like, she's always been a villain.
Okay.
But that's kind of like, as I think Brett says as well, like it's very one note. She's very much look here I am in my white corset bodice. Yeah. She has a center part and a blonde bob. Yeah. She's rich, smokes, and she's a bitch. But it's just like, it's very much like a caricature. He mentions this later on, and I won't talk too much about it. Emma Frost sets up an alternative school. So
Yes,
the Massachusetts
I remember, yeah.
Academy, because she is a billionaire.
That's what you do if you have lots of money.
So she sets up. I don't want to say too much about it. She sets up an alternate school, the Massachusetts Academy, and so when the New Mutants are introduced, she has her own team, which is the Hellions.
Right.
So
Okay.
she teaches students there. They're bad guys. Blah blah blah. They fight with the New Mutants. She kidnaps Kitty. All that kind of stuff. It's very 80s, pure bad guy stuff. She is in and out of comas. She keeps
Really?
getting like, Jean Grey killed her, but turns out she was in a coma. Mastermind put her in a coma. They're in a fight. She's in a coma. She is in and out of comas. She takes over Storm's body, which is racially ambiguous and probably really bad. But okay, and it's probably wrong. We get some things wrong. However, Storm in the White Queen white corset looks fucking amazing. So,
Okay.
but it's quite messy because Emma's pretending Emma is in Storm's body, so it's it's basically like psychic blackface. So,
Oh my god!
but
Can that be the title of the episode?
psychic blackface.
No, it's okay.
So she's like, for all of that kind of time, she is just a straight up mwahaha villain. So Storm's team goes to the Hellfire Club to kind of do a truce, and that's where Sentinels attack.
Okay.
But fight. She's in a coma again.
Right. Okay.
And in that like double issue, kind of where it starts, is where Bishop's introduced, all that kind of very,
Right.
very, very 90s stuff. That's where her students, her Hellions, are slaughtered.
Oh, that's why.
Very 90s. And then she's just like out for a long time.
Mm-hmm. With the intention of her like being written out of the story, like.
Pretty much, because like Chris had her as like a villain, and then wrote her out because like villain dead, villain coma. It was she was peripheral, that sort of thing. So that is her kind of beginnings as written and introduced by Chris Claremont, who created her.
Yeah.
But she was just a straight up boring ass villain.
So that whole conversation about like her being a bitch with a heart
That's
doesn't
not
really
yet.
happen in the beginning.
It's one of the weird things. Like Chris Claremont is the perfect writer of the X-Men, and his stories can't really be beaten. His Emma Frost,
Yeah.
kind of dull.
Okay, fine.
Emma Frost really finds her footing. You can depend, like some will say the 90s with Gen X, most will say Grant Morrison, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
Where she was reintroduced.
Yeah, so she had this school to rival Xavier's School for the Gifted, or whatever it's called. And as a villain, like most villains do kind of get their comeuppance in some way, and they get like a resolution. But if you have a villain where you end up in a coma, you should be open to the idea that they're going to come back in whatever way.
He kept bringing her back, but she was always like a bitch. She was also... Do you know who Firestar is?
I've heard of Firestar. I don't know a lot because I always get them confused with Fire something else, some other fire.
There's a ton of fire people. So when...
There's an Asian fire person as well. Sunfire, yeah. I always get
So
confused.
Firestar was created for Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which is an episode we 100% will do because that was pivotal.
For the cartoon.
Yes.
Okay.
So she was created for the cartoon.
Oh, so she. Okay.
Because they couldn't use Human Torch because of licensing rights.
Okay, gotcha.
So when they were like, oh, people like this character, we should put her in the comic books.
Right. Okay.
Her origin story is that she was a Hellion.
Oh.
So Emma Frost recruited her before Professor
like
X.
like a retcon kind of thing.
So yeah, well, sort of, but also not because she was never in the comics.
She didn't have a backstory.
So that was her introduction to
Fine.
it.
Cool.
They do a little mini story, so a four-issue mini series where Firestar is at the Massachusetts Academy. She's a member of the Hellions and all that sort of stuff. And Emma Frost is just pure up bad guy bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Ask any Emma Frost fan what they think about Buttercup when she kills Firestar's horse to make her feel bad. She psychically kills her. Who gives a shit? Calm the fuck down.
What?
Blah blah blah.
Is Firestar a bad guy then, or?
Firestar was kind of being manipulated by Emma Frost to become an assassin.
Right, okay.
But she's a good guy. So it blows up in her face at the end, and she becomes a good guy, and she goes up and joins the New Warriors, blah, 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 that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But she was introduced as part of Emma Frost's stuff. And it's just a good example of how a real contrast to what we'll talk about in the 90s, about when she's running the school, running the Hellions, trying to make them all killers, assassins, that sort of stuff, like pure, seen as mustache twirling evil, compared to when she's reintroduced later on by other writers in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
So that being said, bodice, BDSM
and the sort of...
I mean, the whole point of the Hellfire Club as it was introduced, Chris Claremont was super into BDSM, and that was all his fantasies and that sort of stuff. So she was always in the corset, and that sort of power, sexy slut, that sort of stuff is very Hellfire Club, which I love it, that sort of thing. So she was, even though she was a pure villain, she was always a hot, rich, blonde, quippy, badass villain.
And if there's anything that a gay man wants to be, it's hot, rich, quippy, badass villain. Hot, rich,
quippy, badass villain. Yes!
Thank you.
Oh my god, it's all I want in the world. Exactly. So even before she was like this redeemable character, like, she's Maleficent, basically. Like, she's the over-the-top, ridiculously camp slut.
I will get you,
bitch.
Prince.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking amazing. Perfect. And a strong woman at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Fighting off all the X-Men by herself. All that kind of stuff.
If you were a hot, rich, quippy, badass villain who was a man, it just wouldn't have the same kind of punch to it. You'd just be like, I don't know. Was the
hot, quippy,
rich, badass as you snack on your popcorn on the podcast. Is there a hot, rich, quippy, badass villain that's a man?
No, because whenever a man becomes a villain, he becomes like a
or
predator rapist.
Especially, yes, it's kind of true.
We talk about Sebastian Shaw, who's also a part of our story as well.
Yeah. Especially if you have telekinetic powers. You know what?
Telepathy.
Maybe
that's rapey telepathy.
Maybe that's why Professor X is in a wheelchair, because if you were a telepath man who could walk. Sidebar.
Are any male telepaths not complete fucking cunts?
I told you this when we were talking about Star Trek.
Yeah. Because it's such a huge power. When it's a man, it's rapey.
Rapey. I mean, Professor X is...
so rapey.
Even a bit rapey, yeah.
Submersive rapey. Like, the only other telepaths like Cable, no, he's a hot daddy, so that's fine.
Cable's telepathic? What?
Yeah, but they
you're talking about daddies?
No,
you're talking about daddies or telepaths?
He's telepathic.
Since when?
Always. He's Jean Grey's son, but he downplays that, so he doesn't actually become a telepath.
Son or grandson?
Son or identical twin sister's son, so technically nephew.
Okay. Right, okay.
It's for another episode. I feel we're getting off track. No, let's not talk about men. Let's continue on.
We're here for Emma Frost.
I feel we're going to be all over the place. So, the reason I wanted to stop at her kind of encapsulating her
early years
was because in my experience, that's not when I started reading her.
Okay.
Because I'm old as fuck. I'm not that old. So, let's continue.
Okay. What else have you got, Brad?
One thing I eventually did come to respect about her was this. Here is this lady who puts together a team of evil teens, the Hellions, and they were twisted versions of the New Mutants. Instead of Cannonball, you had Jetstream. Instead of Magic, you had Tarot. Instead of Wolfsbane, you had Cat's Eye. And that's just really petty. I just thought her putting together this team that mirrored the New Mutants took a certain artistry and pettiness that really started to... it was the first spark of my connection to the character. But I think really the first time that I really saw Emma's potential was Uncanny X-Men 314, where she took over Iceman's body and showed us all what Iceman was really kind of capable of. She was the first one who kind of made the foray into Iceman being kind of an Omega. And the fact that she dove into his body, did things he could never do, it just started to show her potential for just being so powerful and so smart and so savvy. But you started to see this tough love and this kindness and this real care for taking care of other mutants start to come out. And that really started to become very interesting. I believe that led eventually into the Phalanx Covenant, that is, where she, Sabretooth, Banshee, and Jubilee are trapped in a mansion with, little did they know, Phalanx doppelgangers of the other X-Men. Her waking up with these other random characters surrounded by the enemy. It was just such a good story, and it brought out kind of the good in Emma Frost. And really, that was the moment where I saw her in a different light. That, of course, led to her being the headmistress of Generation X. And one of my favorite fun facts, one of the first X-Men to ever be portrayed in live action media. It is wild to me that the first full-fledged X-Men to ever be played by real people in a TV or a movie were Banshee and Emma Frost in the Gen X movie from the 90s. I just think that is hilarious.
That's my cap.
I do remember my one friend mentioning that she was portrayed in some random film.
In a terrible TV movie.
Was it a TV movie?
So.
Okay. So a lot there as well.
Yeah. So we have this big gap in her publication history. Or I don't even know if that's that long. So, put into a coma, Hellions are slaughtered.
Mm-hmm.
After this is when I start reading comics for the first time. I think I start reading in like 312 or something, 308, and 314 is a really important issue, and I have it. It's ripped to shit. It's such a great one.
From reading it so much.
So much. So she's in a coma. She's in the mansion for fuck knows how long. They kind of introduce her. Stuff happens. Drama. And she wakes up in Iceman's body.
Okay.
So she's possessed him. So she's in a coma. Rather than waking up, she's jumped into his body.
So it's not like a conscious thing. It's not a decision that she made to be.
I don't know. It wasn't a conscious decision to. It just seemed to be that that's the way it's going to work. And the way she needed to get out was through his body. So she possessed his body.
Right, okay.
And the whole issue is her in Iceman form.
Mm-hmm.
And fairly new to comics, that was crazy because I'd seen Iceman on Spider-Man His Amazing Friends, and he's Frank Welker making slides and like ice ladders. And this is the issue where, as Iceman, she uses his powers in ways he'd never imagined. Like, it transforms her body into ice, melts, all this kind of stuff. Like Brett said, so uses his powers like he's an Omega. So this is like, no one would ever in a million years have thought Iceman as powerful.
Omega mutant meaning
Omega level mutant,
super powerful.
So powerful that they are the most powerful at that aspect of their power that it can't be replicated by anyone or anything.
Okay.
So she jumped into his body, used his powers in ways he'd never realized, and it was a weird kind of weirdly drawn one. It looked really cool, and she was just trying to get away from the X-Men, and she just wanted to get back to her students.
Okay.
So she's like, she breaks into Frost Enterprises as an Iceman and that sort of stuff. She's like, oh, if I had my powers, I could like telepathically control them, just like I did with my dad or my professors, or like just a thought. So you kind of get the insight of how cool, like how she, unlike the other telepaths, she's like, I have this power, I'm gonna fucking use it. Fuck you. But in that issue is where she like gets to her computer system and she's like, where are my Hellions? And she finds out they've all been killed.
Oh, I see.
And she's not been there for it, and she doesn't know how long she's been away and that sort of stuff. And it's such a, she's in ice, so it doesn't look like her, but it's, you know, they draw her so dramatically, like breaking down, like the computer recounting that each one of her students has been slaughtered. And the whole issue, she's like this badass. It's like, fucking Iceman, look how powerful he is. I could do this. We should do this. Fuck you, Xavier. And then she just completely crumbles, and Banshee picks her up as Iceman. And you just see her like completely small and vulnerable.
So that's interesting that you said it
broken.
because Brett mentioned that it showed because she's still a villain at this point, from what I understand.
Yes, she's not done any. She was a full-on hardcore villain.
Yeah, and
when she got put into the coma, and then her kids were killed.
So
this is her about turn moment, where she's like her actions. I mean, it happens again. We'll talk about it later. It's going to be a long episode. Where she realized, like, her actions, she just wants to protect these kids. You know?
Yeah,
she's like, oh, I want an army, but really, she doesn't. She's trying to protect
other
these kids.
That's what Brett said. So that is really the crux of it, isn't it?
And she fucking failed.
Yeah, she failed.
She collected all these kids. It's like, use your powers, do what you want. They were fucking decimated, and she feels like a complete fucking.
Who did that? Remind me.
Fitzroy. It doesn't matter. It's so nice.
Oh, right, okay.
You don't need to know.
A villain who doesn't come back.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Doesn't matter. Which
leads on to, he says phalanx. I always said it phalanx. That's the problem with reading comics. I don't know how it's pronounced.
I know nothing about this phalanx.
It's a form of attack when your like Roman soldiers would like put all the like shields above them and stuff. It's an attack mode. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So phalanx. Oh my god. Do we need to get into it?
Never. Well, he did. And I'll just...
It's one of my favorites because it's literally like 2 or 3 issues into when I started reading comics.
Okay.
So like Jean Grey proposed, something happened, and then this. So I'm like 3 issues in. I'm like, oh, this is what X-Men do. Fucking nuts. So cool.
And this is what the 90s.
This is what the 90s were about. It was amazing.
Okay.
So the phalanx are techno-organic Borg, basically the Borg.
Okay.
It's Marvel's rip on the Borg.
Okay.
So they're techno-organic creatures. They assimilate humans and that sort of stuff. They can't assimilate mutants. Their whole purpose is they're techno-organic sentinels. They want to kill mutants.
Oh, okay.
We've seen them before. Storm fights them. Great 2-issue arc. Fuck me up. Should have been 3. But now they're kind of suddenly back. Like you start this like 4 issues thing with like it's Emma Frost waking up out of Iceman's body. Banshee,
out of a coma.
Banshee is there. Jubilee and Sabretooth.
Okay.
Everyone else in the mansion is a phalanx.
What mansion? Just our mansion?
The mansion.
The X-mansion.
The X-mansion.
Okay, yeah.
And everyone else looks like an X-member's phalanx, that sort of stuff. Because I don't know, it's weird, it's convoluted. They're trying to get the next generation of mutants, and so Banshee, Emma, Jubilee, and Sabretooth. What a weird fucking combination.
Yeah. Which I love.
It worked so well. It was great. It was like a big ass crossover. So they were going to save the new kids. The X-Men were all kidnapped. We're going to be experimented on. So you got like Cable over here and Wolverine trying to save them. You've got X-Factor, Excalibur, and X-Force trying to stop. All this big kind of very 90s big crossover.
Okay.
And Emma Frost was a big part of it.
Yeah. And
it was great because that's kind of the first time I saw her, like, you know, blonde Emma, big boobs. And she is quippy, she is bitchy, but she cares so much. All they care about is like saving these kids because they've got a list of like 5 or 6 kids which are kidnapped by the phalanx, and like we have to save them because she's obviously like,
yeah, she's feeling
save
like
save the kids
from the letdown
she
for
has
her own kids.
You know, she kind of plays around with it. She flirts with Banshee. She's like, oh, I can show you things, that sort of stuff. Ooh, look at all my money, and like this is my little silly house, which is a penthouse in San Francisco. All these kinds of flashy, I'm a rich, hot blonde thing. But all she cares about is saving these kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, that's how I knew her. Not as this evil villain from Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
As this kind of like, I'm going to do the right thing, but I'm not going to be nice about it. I'm not going to be like, holier than thou.
Yeah.
I want to be rich. I want to be hot. I want to have sex. But also, I want to help people and that sort of stuff.
It just sounds like the whole point of a good character is that you have layers. So, I mean, humans are not simple. I mean, unless you ask certain people, but like, everybody's got like layers. Everyone's got like reasons for doing things that contradict reasons for doing other things. It's like, if you could make a character like that, that makes it that much more interesting. So we were comparing it to Cordelia before, where Cordelia is this sort of at the front, this sort of icy person, and she doesn't really. I don't think she really comes into it until she's in Angel.
Yeah, for sure.
But she does show her vulnerability then, and that once you tear away or take away that sort of superficial face where like you are just bitchy or icy or whatever, you've determined what you actually care about and what you're passionate about.
It's a fun character,
which is good. Which is just good character making. You know what I mean?
Like you don't want to root for the nice, sweet
No.
Willow Jean Grey character. You want it like this badass bitch who doesn't want. It's like I'm not being good. I'm not being good for the sake of it. I'm not being good to be nice, but I'm being good because this is important. Shut the fuck up. Get it done. It's really I find it quite badass and genuine versus this holier than thou Jean Grey. It's like, oh, I'd never use my powers that way. Whatever. I'll do what needs to be done. And she's really flirty and slutty in it, but in a very
which also is like also calls back. It also makes you think of the reason people like watching mutants anyways, because they want to see the powers being used. Oh my god, I just. So I was going to tie it to Star Trek very briefly, but I don't have to. It's like, I want to see the powers being used in clever ways, which is why crossover events are so interesting. Like when you talk about the big Marvel films that are events, because you have different characters using powers at each other, doing things that you wouldn't see otherwise. It's perfect.
So after the Phalanx Covenant, they launched Generation X, which... I loved New Mutants, but I was around for the launch of Gen X, so then it has obviously a lot of personal love for me. It's for the teenagers who were like in school and like, oh, maybe I have this power. I was like, oh, that sort of thing. And I was a teenager at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to be in the school.
Yeah, I get it. Because you grew up with those characters. So the same as like Harry Potter. People who grew up with Harry Potter.
I do understand that, even though it's garbage. So
right,
Gen
and if
X,
you disagree.
So she was, her and Banshee were the headmaster and the headmistress of Gen X. So she was always a positive, good person when I was watching it, but at the same time wasn't this like, ooh, we don't do this. Oh no, we mustn't do this.
Yeah.
Oh, you mustn't do this kind of teacher.
Right.
She butt heads with Monet a lot. M, which is a big
Monet.
Who's a really popular character. She's fucking awesome, but
wait,
she's
headmistress of Xavier School at this point.
So Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters was now in the Massachusetts Academy. It became Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, and the mansion becomes Xavier School Institute for Higher Learning.
Oh,
X-Men are at the Institute for Higher Learning. Gen X are at the School for Gifted Youngsters. How they did the kind of
right, okay. That is very clarifying. Thank you. I didn't know that.
And
it's still called Xavier School for Gifted.
Both of them are Xavier's Institute and Xavier School.
Of course, it's gotta be the man's name.
In that issue where they split it off, where they kind of set it up, I don't know if you remember when we talked about Iceman, is the issue where Iceman, Bobby comes to her and it's like, you did stuff with my powers, you need to show me how, and she's like, there's other stuff going on in your head, Bobby.
Yeah. I was going to mention that, but...
There's other things you need to be thinking about if you just, like, not worry about stuff.
Yeah.
You've put a block on yourself. I'm not going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself.
Which is hinting at him being...
the gay of the X-Men, and it's such a great panel, and it's so Emma Frost, because she's such, like, that bitch friend you have in school who's like,
I know a secret.
I know about, like, you don't have to lie to me because I know. It's like, why don't you just admit it? And it's so cool. And he still
you can tell me, it's fine.
He still takes 20 years to admit it.
Okay, I got two things there. So it's a good panel because it's hints at him being gay, which I'm assuming at this point.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you were fine.
I'm sorry. At the end.
At the end, in that era, you couldn't quite say that you were gay openly, so they did it in a subversive way. Was it clear to people at the time Is my first question. And secondly, how amazing is that? I forget what the second point was. Like, because she's that shows her compassion. Like, she doesn't care that he's gay.
Not for a single second, and they come back to it later because when she's off at Gen X, they have a little crossover later on where they have a little fight, and she is also like, "You need to sort the stuff that's in your head. Stop coming to me when you're holding yourself back. Just do it."
So, like, even though I know she's kind of turning around to being less of a villain at the moment, being more of an anti-hero, I suppose, but she's just a
bitch with a good heart.
She just still cares about all this other mutant.
She does.
Listen, I've been in your head, and I know that you've got some issues. You should really focus on that.
I know, and you know
that I know. Yeah.
So what are we fucking playing around with here?
Like, why do we not even but she's not going to force him. That's the thing.
No, not at all. And
which us gay boys will appreciate.
Exactly. It's like, you can just say it whenever you want. It's like no fucking big deal.
Can we get that panel framed or something?
Oh, I love it. And this is long before it was revealed that she had a gay brother, which works perfectly.
Of course. Yeah.
Who Iceman sleeps with.
No, really?
Yes! Wonderful. Christian Frost.
David Frost. No, wait.
Christian.
Not David Frost.
Christian Frost. I've lost my train of thought.
You were talking about X-Men coming to her and saying, you're in my head. Gifted youngsters.
Yeah, so Gen X goes on for a long time. Longer than I read it because it goes off the rails a bit. You're introduced, she has two sisters and a brother. Two sisters have powers and they're evil bitches. People die. It's back and forth. She's just for a while.
Okay.
I always like her because I love, like we were saying, it's like I love people who use their powers.
Yeah.
Like, unlike Jean and Professor X, who apologize for their fucking power.
Yeah.
I could never comprehend, invading people's privacy. She's like, whatever, this guy's an asshole. Done.
What's the password?
You suck. Whatever.
What's the password? Don't worry, I already know it already.
I already know it. Whatever. It's like, you're gay, but I'm not going to tell you. Whatever, it's fine.
Whatever.
It's just so, all of us who were gay boy teenagers who wished we had superpowers were all oh, I would never use my powers. Like, bitch, I would use my powers. Yeah. I would use my powers to fuck. So,
yeah.
all the time.
There's also that, but there's also the, yes, to fuck.
As in a lot. But yes.
Oh, I thought you meant just to find ways to fuck, which is also very true. But also the fact that you are different in some way and not be ashamed of it.
She's so unashamed of it.
She's unashamed of it, yeah.
Unapologetic is the word for it.
I'm unapologetically mutant.
Jean and Professor X are always we know we have this, we must act a certain way, we must
hide. And I'm different.
We must hide ourselves, and we must be, which is such a great gay analogy. It's we're like this, but we're not, but we're not like this. We're not like, those guys. We're not like Magneto. So we're not too much. Whereas she's like, bitch.
Yeah.
I'm all fucking that. My tits are amazing.
Yes.
And I have tons of powers, and I'm rich and blonde. Fuck off.
What else
off.
I don't need validation from you.
Who are you aspiring to be?
From you straight people. I mean, non-mutants.
Sad, moody Jean Grey and bold Professor X, or Emma fucking Frost.
Yeah.
Who's I have all these wonderful gifts. Money, whiteness, power, boobs. And they're great, and I love them.
And I haven't even gotten to my powers.
Yay fucking me. It's so, yeah.
Can I make a point as well? Because you mentioned there's Magneto and then also Professor X, who are the two dipoles of this sort of argument of should we be superior to humans or should we use them? And then what you said before about Emma Frost just wants to help the mutants, make sure they're not going to die. She doesn't seem like she's part of that argument.
No. Emma Frost has been considered to be a third kind of mutant philosophical approach.
Perfect.
You have the Magnetos, they need to be subservient, mutant dominance. Yeah. You have Professor X, which is the mutant integration kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you kind of got the, not entirely self-serving, but definitely, we need to protect ourselves, fuck you.
Yeah.
But also very caring.
But we know that there's a danger out there.
Her focus is always on the kids. Even though I love you, Emma, they all die. All your kids die, and they keep dying. because you're not not good at this. But yes, she's the kind of like the third prong of this kind of mutant philosophy is that yes, we need to protect ourselves and we need to do our own kind of shit, make sure the kids are okay. It's like we're not going to hide away and we're not going to pretend to be, acceptable.
We're not going to pretend to be equal.
No.
But
we're going to look after ourselves, but also we're not going to kill you.
Yeah. Perfect. I love it.
So, yes.
That's the philosophy.
I can't remember what the next bit is.
Let's just play it. I think
it's him talking about how I think he reads it.
But obviously, it was Grant Morrison's run that did it. I think that's true for a lot of us. She grabbed my heart in E is for Extinction. She never gave it back. Grant gave her that rapier wit, that those quips, that just he started to establish her as, frankly, the funniest X-Men, which I still think she is to this date. My favorite moment from Morrison's run is where she cries in Logan's arms after having her mind raked across the coals by Jean, professing her love for Scott. It was that moment of real vulnerability and all of the comedy she had been given in that run up to that point that really, really solidified Emma Frost as my favorite comic book character.
Tell me about that.
So, obviously, after Gen X was cancelled, that sort of stuff, we had a few bits and pieces, that sort of thing, but the whole line got a revamp when Grant Morrison came on to do their new X-Men run. They wanted to use Colossus, but Colossus was dead.
Colossus died?
Yeah, he died and he came back. They wanted to use Storm, but she was being used by Chris Claremont, that sort of stuff. So they got Jean, Cyclops, and I need someone else and that sort of stuff. So I was like, what's she doing? It's like, well, Gen X is finished, you can have her. So after Gen X, Emma went to Genosha.
Yeah.
You know Genosha?
Yes.
Where she was, again, teaching kids. And 16 million mutants were wiped out.
What?
So they were all slaughtered, and that's when her secondary mutation comes in, and when she turns into Diamond.
Is it the first time she exhibits this power?
Yeah.
So she's just a telepath up to this point?
Yeah, a great telepath.
Right, okay.
A great telepath, but this was literally brought in because Grant Morrison wanted someone who can, punch people as this kind of alternate and couldn't use Colossus. So Genosha's wiped out. There's a heartbreaking scene where she's found in the rubble as this diamond, and everyone's like, what the fuck, Emma? And she's carrying a student. It's like, this is Ellie, make sure you get her to a hospital. It's like, she's dead.
Yeah.
She's definitely dead. So she lives through all of that she lost her Hellions. Sync died in Generation X, and then all of these ones died as well. I was like, bitch, your kids keep dying. So Grant Morrison brings her in. I can't imagine they had this idea, but that's when she has a psychic affair with Cyclops.
Right, because she takes the mind of not Madeline Pryor.
No.
I'm completely confused.
No. So
give me the brief. Give me the overview, summary. Give me and the listeners.
Shit's happened. So Cyclops got possessed by Apocalypse, died, came back.
Oh
right?
My God. Okay.
So he's back. So he's back. But he's fucked up, right?
Because he died.
He's fucked up. And he was evil and he died and he came back. So he's fucked up.
Wait, what was he as Apocalypse?
You don't want to know.
You
don't want to know.
Doesn't matter.
You do not want to know. Trust me. It's way too long. So he's fucked up. His wife is the most powerful telepath on Earth. Mm-hmm. And yet still, he can't talk about it. Which I think is a really great idea because, Can
you talk about her?
About him being, fucked up and weird and all that kind of shit. He still can't find a way to talk to his wife about it because even though she's she knows it, he won't talk. It's such a wonderful kind of weird mutant fucked up marriage.
Yeah.
In that he's known her since he was 16, but he's used to her reading his mind, but still can't talk. But she's like, I know what you're thinking, but you have to tell. It's such 30-year-olds going through a divorce. It's it's so messy. It's so human. I loved it. So Emma is written. She's a therapist. She's a sex therapist as well, because obviously she's got tits.
Because
she's got tits and sex.
If I have a sex therapist, I want her to him or her to have some BDSM history.
Oh, of course.
You know?
You can't be a vanilla sex therapist.
Have you tried missionary position?
Have you tried talking about dirty role? Anyway, so she's like kind of trying to counsel him and that sort of stuff, and then they start a psychic affair. So they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. But he's thinking about it, and she's thinking about it, and because she knows he's thinking about it, she's thinking about him thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he kind of like his mind wanders because he's thinking about fucking her.
Yeah.
And so she's like, "Oh yeah, I can hear you," and kind of thinks about it too. And so that's an affair, but not really, because he's just like he's flying a plane thinking about fucking Emma Frost.
As you do.
And now you're all thinking about it too.
I have.
We're all thinking about it too, and that was it. Which is but Jean Grey she's coming back into her Phoenix self. Then she sees everything. She like breaks it.
Jean Grey knows it as well.
Jean Grey's the most powerful telepath on the planet.
Yeah,
she knows. So there's this big fight. You find out her history, all that sort of stuff, which is great. You find out that her backstory, which is really cool.
Whose backstory?
Emma's backstory.
Okay.
So like Jean's like, "Fuck you, Emma. You're a bad guy." He's like, "Well, your husband's also bad, but whatever." And she's kind of getting a bit phoenixy, so she like breaks into her mind, and that's when you see like your little flashback. So you see Emma Frost, Emma, her two sisters, her gay brother, her asshole dad, and her alcoholic mum, like Boston rich white people life.
Okay.
So when you see her in like a flashback, and Jean's like, "You look different." She's like, "I may have had some cosmetic surgery." And
wait,
you know what? So she's got a different nose, and she's got a flat chest, and she's got brown hair. She's
so she's still an adult in these memories.
They're in like flashbacking to see her as like a teenager. That sort of
I was
stuff.
gonna say, like, if she's got blonde hair, like, what is her history background? If you're from Boston, you're probably like Irish or Italian.
Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
But anyway, it's the kind of bit. She's like, "Yes, I wanted a different nose, and I wanted bigger breasts, and I paid for it."
Yeah, okay.
Fucking great!
Great.
Fuck you, Jean, trying to make me feel bad for having a nose job and a boob job because I wanted to look how I feel.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Jean. Anyway, this big old fight. You kind of find out her family history, that the dad is a piece of shit, and like he wanted to hand over his empire like it should have gone to the eldest, which was one of the other sisters. He's like, "I hand it to Emma because she's like actually really good at stuff and I trust her." And the sisters were pissed off, and she's like, "Nah, I don't want it because you're a piece of shit." It was a big fight, that sort of stuff. Her brother, the only person she ever loved, was gay. The dad was like, "No, you're not going to be gay." Send it to conversion therapy. So there's all that kind of all that sort of stuff, which makes perfect sense.
This is in the 90s as well, isn't it? Or
this would have been 2001ish to 3ish, that sort of stuff.
So conversion therapy.
But flashback to the 90s, that sort of stuff. If they're like a Catholic Bostonian family, rich upper crust, that's super normal. And the fact that she was like, "I will never take a fucking penny from you, Dad, because of what you did to him, how you treated my brother. He's the only person who I've ever loved," that sort of stuff. Come on!
I love it. I'm loving it listening to you talk about it.
And that's why she wouldn't take any shit. So that's why when she speaks to Bobby, she's like, "Babes."
I mean, yeah.
I know. Like, I know.
Oh my God. This is like, how can you deny that she's a gay icon? She has this kind of background, yeah.
So yeah, that's the big fight. They have a big fight. It's awful, and after Jean's ripped through her mind and like.
So this is the rip through her mind that Brett was talking about.
Yeah. So because she's becoming kind of phoenixy, she doesn't. Right. She's not subtle about it. She's just fucking burning away shit, and so. After all that, like, there's a moment where she's like, "I hate this place. I hate these people here. Everyone's so repressed and lies, and everyone treats me like shit." And it's such a lovely, again, a vulnerable moment. That's why we love her. She puts up this facade, that sort of stuff, but she's real and genuine. Whereas, fuck you, Jean Grey. Fuck you, Cyclops. Fuck you, Professor X. Everyone's act beast. You're all acting a certain way because you want to be seen a certain way. Whereas she's like, "You're all fucking fake.
Yeah.
You're all fucking full of shit."
It's quite interesting that she does that because she has the ability to see everyone's truth. So she has no reason to be lying to other people.
Why am I gonna lie?
She's lived her whole life. Her history is about truth. So why would she be misleading to anybody else?
Exactly.
It makes perfect sense.
No fucking point.
Well
Yeah.
done.
It's
well
a great,
done,
yeah.
Grant Morrison.
It's a great moment. Yeah, Grant does a lot with the character. Like, I always loved Emma Frost, you know, from the Gen X stuff. But bringing her in as a kind of like substitute character, just that storyline works really well, and it makes her so fucking prominent. And that's why she is an A-list X-Men, whereas like as opposed to you're on that kind of team.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
But she kind of has both, though, doesn't she? Because I feel like she's always been like the other team, that she's not in sort of like the X-Men proper ever, but she's always affiliated with them.
And then this is when she's like X-Men, and from then on in she is Emma Frost, X-Men.
Yeah, perfect.
So I feel like now is the perfect time to talk about her gay icon status.
Have we not been already?
I mean, yes, but this is what Brett has to say about it, and I feel like that's worked from where we've come perfectly to this point.
Okay, perfect.
So why is she a gay icon? Listen, she's messy. She protects herself in a bitchy exterior. Like, I feel like a lot of us did when we were in the closet. Something Morrison actualized with her diamond form. But she cares. She's kind. And she'll always go for that quip. Seriously, the fact that Emma is the funniest one is just, it is wild to me.
Nice short clip. I'm finished chewing my popcorn.
Sorry, we caught you mid popcorn.
She's messy.
I mean, from this, it's very easy to kind of dismiss her. Like, she could easily be a gay icon because she's a bitch with a great outfit. That's it. That's all she needs to do to be a gay kind of character that we would love and resonate with. I mean, like, it's just fabulous. She's a rich bitch. Oh my god, love her. But the years that she's spent on this team and like the different kind of thing, the vulnerability, the mess, the fact that like before when she was just a pure villain, and then even in Gen X she was always rich, put together, here's what we do.
Yeah.
I'm worried, but put together, that sort of stuff. And then when she has the affair with Cyclops and the mess that she kind of becomes, and you kind of see the other side of it and that kind of relatability to it.
The fact that she keeps trying and she keeps failing and she gets back up and tries again. She just is always there. She has a very clear motivation, which is her students. I was talking about this with Tom the other day about how the good characters in the Marvel films, because we're watching them slowly, like the good characters are the ones who start off as assholes and then they have a moment of realization where maybe they shouldn't be assholes anymore. So you've got like Iron Man who has like, you know, he almost dies, whatever, or like Doctor Strange who almost dies, you know. There seems to be a trend. But like there's a moment where you realize I could actually do something different and actually help people. And the fact is like they are then, because watching that as a viewer, you are there with their journey. Like yes, you realize it and you actually understand why they're trying to do this.
The thing is, for the hardcore Emma fans, the proper comic book readers, that hasn't changed. So even in her pure villain era, like my favorite story of mine, I was a massive New Mutants fan, and there is a story like, so the New Mutants are killed by the Beyonder and brought back to life.
Okay.
Big crossover, Secret Wars, big that sort of stuff. So they are obviously horribly traumatized because they were all killed. And then it's like, oh, and now you're back. And this is when Magneto was in charge of the school. He sent them to Emma Frost because she was manipulated, but whatever. Sent them to Emma Frost to be like, join the Hellions. I can't deal with this. Even then, she was pure villain. Mm-hmm. She helped them. Her whole purpose was, because she was a telepath and a really, really, really good telepath, was helping these kids deal with their trauma. And you even had moments when, like, she couldn't help Ileana because Ileana's blocked off from telepathy at that point, that sort of stuff. You see her, like, she helps Rain hugs her, that sort of stuff, and then she, like, has a moment, she's like, good God, these kids have been through a lot. She has a moment of, like, oh.
Yeah.
It's not an act, it's not a manipulation to try and get one up on Xavier, that sort of stuff. Xavier's gone at that point. She's helping the kids because they've been through horrible stuff and she has the ability to help them. Even at her purest Chris Claremontian villainist, her primary focus is making sure the next generation of kids is okay and helping them in the way that getting them the support that she never did.
How relatable is that to every single gay boy in school
Who love their teachers?
who love the teacher? Yeah, but just if you had somebody in school who was just like there for you to tell you to help.
Oh my
you with
god!
it.
Can you
know what I mean?
imagine if
Like
you had that teacher
who's like, listen, I get it. Here's what you got to do.
Yeah.
You're gonna be okay.
Oh my god!
Like
To
how-
offer you a support in
Oh my
school
God, yeah.
that none of us ever. Well, our generation, maybe
yeah.
the new kids.
the Gen
The
Z
Z's,
kids.
maybe you're alright, but us lot and earlier, like
Yeah.
never got. That
Like, could
kind
you
of thing.
imagine how much trauma we could have avoided? I suppose. But like, yeah, it's like that kind of thing. Like, I totally get why it resonates. Even if
Yeah.
it was a villain, even if I had like an asshole teacher who was like, listen, I want to destroy the city, but I want you to understand that you're gonna be okay. This is what we needed. That's growing up. Which is why she is a gay icon.
Yeah, I mean,
Another reason, as if we needed more reasons.
you literally couldn't think of, if you try and kind of like compounded all the things that all the gay icons do and are, I can't think of anything from Liza Minnelli to Mariah Carey. Diva, talented, beautiful, eccentric, a little bit too much
A little bit too
sometimes,
much,
likes a drink.
Yeah.
Couple
Yeah.
of substance things, but now she's not so much into it. But she's done that. That's
Got a
fine.
gay brother.
And also the gay fucking brother. It was a
Difficult origins because she was a villain. Like difficult, like worked through it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, what do I want to do? Kind of messy beginnings,
Messy,
that
yeah.
sort of stuff. Outspoken, slutty. One could call slutty. One could call slutty, but she's not
Sexually positive.
She's not actually slutty. Like, if you follow her characters, like, she doesn't sleep with a lot of people. She just...
Not there's anything
She
wrong with that.
If you want
but-
to, that's fine. But
Yeah.
she doesn't do it because she doesn't want to. She's like, I'm fucking gorgeous. You can't touch me. I don't like you. She has sex with Sebastian Shaw, who I would too, and Cyclops, who I absolutely would too.
Mental
Yeah.
sex with Cyclops.
She has physical sex with him.
Why you didn't mention that before?
Well, Jean Grey dies then.
Oh right. Okay.
Like, they have the affair, they have a fight, and Jean Grey dies for 14 years. So
Yeah.
Emma Frost scooches in during the Utopia and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Utopia. Yeah. So there's a lot of penetration.
Right.
Phoenix
I guess
Five, all
if
that
you
kind of
had a partner who was like the best telepath in the world, you're gonna go with another telepath. Because like, why not?
You were the most powerful telepath, but like oppressed and whatever, and then go to like not the most powerful, but like sexy.
And unashamed.
Can you imagine what she does? Can you imagine what Emma Frost does with your fucking...
He's never like failed in the bedroom. He'll never be like.
He will never. There'll never be like doubt.
Whenever she's like, I want it, and he's like, I don't really feel into it. She'll be like, Yeah, you are.
But even like
You are now.
guys, like, I don't know, like Tops, maybe you can, I don't know if you could relate to this, but like if you're like insecure or worried or that kind of stuff, all that's like, that's gone.
No.
You
whatever
believe
want.
you are the hottest, sexiest, studliest, you're going to
You're the
destroy my
alpha.
pussy, that kind of stuff.
You're the one. Yeah.
All of it. She could give everything. Wow. Sorry, we
Yeah.
got slutty really quickly.
I mean, if the listeners to this podcast,
You can't be a
they
gay
know it.
icon without being sex positive, and
Of
bitch,
course.
she is sex positive. That's amazing.
Love it. What else?
I don't know. One thing that's not, I don't know if it's a gay icon or just iconic status, and it's a kind of, I don't know if it's iconic.
Mumble.
I'm mumbling because I'm trying to kind of see if this fits in with this kind of, or it doesn't really, should have mentioned it earlier, how her relationships with other characters is, she's always the one that no one likes. Because first she's the villain, and then she's the like, oh, I'm not the villain anymore, but everyone, like, it's a fun bit. It's a fun bit that they use a lot. Storm fucking hates her.
Yeah.
Kitty fucking hates her. Kitty's like, you can't tell my origin story without telling yours. You are the villain in my origin story. Psylocke fucking slangs her off. It's like, Jean Grey will be back soon, and then maybe, you shouldn't be sleeping with Cyclops. Like, everyone is cutting bitchy, puts her down, but she's still there. Like, she has quips, she has things back and forth. She puts Carol Danvers through the fucking ringer because Carol deserved it, and she's better for it. It's not a nice. It's not. We're not all. We're not all friends here. The way that Storm and Jean were friends. And Kitty, you were 14, and that's all. No one. We are not friends, but I love you, and you are family, and I will just like when Kitty couldn't come back, she was destroyed. There is. It kind of goes with the messiness.
It's not X-Men Friends Race. It's X-Men Drag Race.
Is that a...
No, if you watch RuPaul's, it's not RuPaul's Friend Race.
It's RuPaul's Drag. Okay.
Yeah, because they can't be friends all the time.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, it was a reference you didn't get.
Maybe other people get it.
Probably.
I should know that.
Yeah.
But I quite like that in the fact that it's not easy for her. She's sleeping with Jean Grey's husband, and Jean Grey's dead, and everyone loves Jean. Everyone loves Jean. And she's not accepted, but she also is.
She's not accepted, but she sticks around because I think that I wouldn't call it a gay icon reason, but I think it's important because it works only because she has that compassion underneath, and she has that sort of drive where she's like there for the. She is messy, but also she has a drive that is about the students or something positive about.
The characters wouldn't put up with her if she didn't have that goodness and that positive attitude in her. But I like the messiness. I like the bitchiness, the fights and that sort of stuff because that's more realistic. We can all
because
be like,
she accepts it. She's like, listen, I'm not perfect. I'm not ashamed.
Oh yeah, I possessed you that one time. Oops. It's like, oh, I threatened to kill your dad. Oops. Whatevs.
Whatevs.
It's
cake?
like, I was on coke the whole time. Like, she admitted she had drug abuse. That sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's like, but that's the messiness. I love it. But people don't like her, but she still shows up. And she will still fight for them, that sort of thing. It's like, we're on the same team. We may not be besties, but we also are. Like, I think she cares about them a lot more than a lot more than they care about her, possibly even more than they care about each other.
It's relatable to when Tom and I just watched The Avengers, which for me was a rewatch, obviously, and it was like, the whole point, the whole reason that they as a team worked, and therefore the film works, is because they don't like each other, and then they have to work with each other for a reason, and then they come together in spite of the differences. So if you can have a team of say X-Men who don't necessarily like each other, but they are able to work together in spite of that makes it all much better and more interesting.
It makes the X-Men feel more like family than friends.
Yeah.
Because you have family that you can't fucking stand, or you argue with. You're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you're stupid.
Oh my god, piss off, Brenda. All these kind of things. But they're family. And that's it. It doesn't matter. You will fight for them. You will defend them. It doesn't matter. You can sign them off. That sort of thing. So I think that's a really good. That's core to X-Men versus Avengers. That sort of stuff. It's like they are found family.
Yeah.
And that kind of messy kind of connection.
I get it.
Is a big part of it. Oh God, there's so much more. Oh shit, I missed something. Hang on. What does he say next?
There are theories I have about Emma Frost, things that we've never seen, but things that things I know in my heart to be true. I think Emma is a Superman fan. I think Emma's favorite superhero is probably Superman. I think she's probably read a few Superman comics. I think Emma is a comedy snob. I think she really has a refined palate for comedy. I think she likes a lot of highbrow comedy, but she also probably likes a Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar. I think she's got really strong mixed feelings about Woody Allen films. I think her Boston accent probably pops out every time she says car or yard. And honestly, I think she loves the other X-Men more than the other X-Men love the other X-Men. So
she loves the other X-Men more
than the X-Men. She loves the X-Men more than the other X-Men love the other X-Men.
Right, okay.
I think that's a really good point in that they are they've been together forever and they like each other and they get on that sort of stuff, but because they don't like her or she doesn't like them, there's a real element of like she loves them and she will do anything for them. And I feel like in some ways that means more. It's interesting because it's also like when you read her, there's a lot more to it, possibly a lot more in female relationships, in how she's kind of drawn as this character that doesn't get along with other girls.
Yeah.
Jean, Storm, Kitty are like the main big three.
Yeah.
And they all love each other. We all get on great. We're all besties. We all love each other. Whereas like this kind of mess is like, I don't like you. You're all a fucking mess. But we're all the same sort of
But I still love you in that way.
Yeah. And you have those moments where there's a huge... Kitty and Emma, huge connections. Jean and Emma, huge connections. Even this huge mess and that sort of stuff. And it just makes it so much more... possibly more interesting as a female character rather than as
we were talking about Barbie earlier, but not on the podcast. But like we were talking about it, like how there's the America Ferrera character who's the mom, and she's like, women are expected to be like best friends, but we're like not supposed to be like antagonists to each other, etc. And it's all like, it's that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I get it. I have no idea where I'm going with the sentence, but
no, but she's the one who will tell you the truth.
Yeah,
she's
of course.
She's not gonna be nice to you.
Because she operates in truth.
Like, I don't need you to be nice to me. I don't need you to like, oh, you're beautiful. It's like, tell me this color looks awful. You're wasting your time with this guy. But we all do have that friend, whether it's a gay friend, very often a gay friend. It's like, oh, you look girl, you look fabulous. No. You are beautiful. This looks awful.
Yeah.
Why are you wearing your hair like that? You shouldn't have that.
Yeah.
You know, everybody has that kind of... Maybe that makes it more gay iconic.
Telling the truth, yeah.
Interesting.
Sorry, I thought you were playing more.
It's a wrap-up.
Oh, is this the wrap-up?
There's a little wrap-up.
Okay, fine.
In conclusion, I don't know, on the original Comic Book Queers run, on the current Comic Book Queers Legacy run, I've pretended to be Emma Frost a lot, and honestly, I've never found wearing a character to be easier. I just connect with her on such a deep level. I will always love her. I will always sort of get and understand her voice. And I just really want to wrap up by saying she's never killed any Inhumans. That was malice. Okay, thank you so much, Nick and John. I hope you have a great show. Bye-bye.
What? I don't get it. Also, thank you, Brett. We love you.
Brett, thank you. That was amazing.
What? She's never killed an Inhuman?
So, okay,
what is this?
There was a story. They did an arc called Inhumans versus X-Men. When before Disney got the Fox rights, they were trying to phase out mutants and make Inhumans a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., all that kind of stuff. So they did a big kind of like Inhumans versus X-Men thing. It was a weird, messy kind of story. Terrigen Mist was released, and it turns out Terrigen Mist kills mutants, and so it was a big fight, which doesn't make sense because you would just tell them, they're like, "Oh my god, let's get rid of it," and then whatever.
Wait, this is all in the comics.
It's all in the comics. It was a mess. We don't like it because Emma. So I forgot this even happened. The Terrigen Mist kills Cyclops.
What?
I don't know how he comes back. I can't remember if he just comes back on Krakoa or he just comes back. But the Terrigen Mist kills Cyclops. And so Emma Frost, even though they're broken up, goes crazy and like manipulates the world and makes everyone think that Cyclops is still alive, and then like kills a load of people and says because it's one of those storylines that we as a gay X-Men community have agreed
that it doesn't exist.
Doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about it.
Handwave that.
It's so out of character for her. She kills like children and that sort of stuff, which as we've said unprompted this whole time.
Yeah.
She cares about protecting the kids. It made no sense. It was just so that they could try and make it a better intellectual property for the TV show. So we all collectively agree.
And these were all Inhuman children.
Yeah, I can't even remember, mate.
Okay, fine.
I don't even remember.
That was the implication, though.
We all, yes, they were Inhumans, but she's like, fuck you, I'm losing my mind because of Scott, I'm going to kill children.
Because
we're all just.
We don't buy it.
It was malice.
We don't buy it because a woman going crazy about her male lover is like it's a trope. We've seen it before. We don't buy it.
So we're gonna hand wave it. There is a character called Malice which possesses people. It's a long established X-Men trope. We'll say it was her. Fine.
Or say it was a clone.
Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't mind. Didn't happen. Alternate reality.
Yeah.
Could have been anything. Let's just hand wave it. You don't need to keep everything canon because there's like 60 years of X-Men history. Whatever.
We'll see what happens.
Hand wave it. So
good.
I think we can all forget about that particular. It's such a damaging chapter in Emma Frost character history. We all agree. It's like
I've already forgotten it.
we don't need that. So that's fine.
Do you have anything else to say about Emma Frost?
Oh,
I mean, that's a stupid question, wasn't it? I have a question
tell me.
that I've been dying to ask you
What?
because obviously my background is like all the TV shows,
Yeah.
films, whatever. Who's gonna play her?
Margot Robbie.
Okay, that was a much more ready answer than I expected.
I mean, someone like Margot Robbie. They
Keep in mind she's already like Harley Quinn. She's gonna be
That's
tied to
fine.
that universe.
They courted her heavily for Sue Storm.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah, it was very. The rumor mill had her and Adam Driver as the main, and it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So you need someone like Margot Robbie, someone who is blonde, beautiful, and beloved,
Mm-hmm.
who could play a bitch.
Okay. So she's number one on the list so far.
I would say I can't. Ideally, and it's not going to happen because they'll want to get someone not as expensive. They can't afford Margot Robbie.
True.
I want Emma to be like ground in, and then 10, 15 years of X-Men films from her.
True. That's the thing about they Marvel has had most success when they cast relatively unknown people.
Apart from Robert Downey Jr. Like
I
the
mean,
main
Chris Evans.
fucking one. Chris Evans was in Not Another Teen Movie and Fantastic Four. But anyway,
I guess, but yeah.
so someone who has that kind of beloved bitch kind
you
of
think of anybody?
energy. I can just Margot Robbie is the one, but she's too expensive. She's way too expensive. You need someone who'll sign on for 10 films.
Who's going to be able to be there? Yeah.
That's
I guess the reason why she can't do it because she's probably not that young. Let's be honest. But also because
I disagree. Emma Frost should be in her 40s.
you think?
Yes, because Cyclops, Jean, they're in their like mid-30s. I'm not going back to 16. I don't want a 16-year-old fucking Cyclops.
No, I don't want that either.
We can't do that again.
Because they're gonna recast Wolverine for fuck's sake. Because how could you not? And that's gonna have to be
Wolverine doesn't matter. He's ageless. No, let's have them all. Like the fans are not even fans of the film. That was 20 years ago, 23 years ago. No one wants a 16-year-old.
What film are you talking about?
X-Men 1 came out in 2000.
Oh yeah.
No one wants teenagers. The fans are of an older age. They can be in their 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Emma can be in her 40s.
That's a very good point.
A hot, rich, take no shit, blonde 40-year-old Bostonian. Fuck off!
How about Jennifer Coolidge?
No. Annoyingly, if Jennifer Lawrence would have been a really good Emma Frost.
True, yeah.
If they hadn't wasted her being the world's worst fucking Mystique.
Well, it wasn't their fault because she was cast as that before she won an Oscar. I think.
Yeah, she was Krispy Kreme.
No, she won an Oscar for like.
I know, but like she was popular because of Katniss Buttercream.
Yes.
And so they put her in X-Men. And shapeshifting is a cool effect because they knew she could handle a franchise. So they put her as that.
Maybe it was that.
Then she won an Oscar. She would have been good.
Anyway.
She would have been really good. But she's also way too expensive. We're not spending that money on her.
She's relatively young as well. She's like 30, I think.
She's in her 30s. But
early 30s then.
But that's fine. Who knows? You need someone. It's
the door usually is. This is my moment where I say, Marvel, I'm available. I don't think I could.
I don't think you could pull up Emma Frost.
No. Could I pull off a Iceman possessed by Emma Frost?
No.
No. Iceman's too much of a twink, I think. I think Iceman's a twink.
I could do Iceman, I think. Old Iceman. Iceman of the future.
Ice old man.
Ice old man.
Ice old man.
Old Iceman. Yeah.
You look more like a Forge.
He's Native American, so...
Is he? I was wrong.
Of course!
I don't know.
Yes, this is the whole point of his character is Native American.
Well, that just shows you how much... Okay, we're nattering now.
We're just carrying on. I thought that episode was going to go all over the place at the beginning. We were a little bit slapdash, but I think having watched you as I've told Emma Frost's story has been really nice. Has been really rewarding. Because I feel like we've added a lot of authenticity to why I love this character and why she is such an icon.
Yeah, but you realize why? Because I for whatever reason, I don't really read comics. Like I've tried, I don't know. It's just I just can't, But what I do really enjoy is reading like biographies of fictional characters. And so when I hear about Emma Frost or any sort of random mutant, we'll spend like an hour to read like the background on Wikipedia, whatever. And so hearing it curated by you was really rewarding for me as well, because I know because you enjoy this character. So like I feel like I'm up to speed with this character. As I hope all of our listeners are as well after listening to this episode.
If you didn't know about Emma Frost, I hope you learned something. If you do know about Emma Frost, and you probably know more than me, I sincerely apologize. We've had champagne. I was excited. Tell
us what your favorite part about Emma Frost's backstory is, dear listener. How can they get a hold of us, Nick?
You can email us, incompletegeekspodcast@gmail.com.
That's right.
You can also reach us on the socials on TikTok and Instagram @incompletegeeks.
Yes, and while you're there, give us a like, follow us, share it with your friends.
Rate this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get podcasts. It really helps us.
And also, while you're there, give Comic Book Queers a follow as well.
If you're not following Comic Book Queers...
A, what's wrong with you?
What are you doing? What are you doing, guys? They are the first original gay X-Men podcast. Yes. They say the filthiest shit about these characters, and I fucking terrible. Love it. They are bitchy queens who talk about these characters in a way that only gays can, and I love it. I don't read comics. And I listen to them talking about comics because I'm interested. And it still makes sense. It's entertaining. So yeah, give them a follow. Give them a like. Comic Book Queers Legacy is the name of the podcast. So thank you, Brett, for. Thank you so much, recording. Brett. It was amazing to have your input. I knew you loved Emma, and it was so great to see the ways that you loved Emma, hear the ways you loved Emma, the way that I love Emma. But again, I was very excited. We went back and forth. I'd had champagne, and I'm really sorry if I got anything wrong. But I'm not a complete geek. But you are working on it. We are working on it. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.